Hello, 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 everybody.
All right, hello, everybody. Okay, hold on first. All right, let me switch it up real quick. Hold on. Right. Okay, let me do something real quick here. All right, we should be good. All right, everybody good?
Yes.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Want to welcome everybody to our monthly financial wellness conversation, financial wellness ministry conversation. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, if you all do me a favor and go ahead and share the post, I would be extremely appreciative. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, just go ahead and share the post, and then let's get ready. Let's get prepared for a wonderful discussion. I present the coordinator of our financial wellness ministry, Kiera Hall.
Hello, hello, everyone. So,
Hello.
Hello.
hey, I'm excited. I'm going to play a video for you all today. The video is 23 minutes. You're going to want to be ready to take notes. It's really powerful. And this video just has a lot of heart to it, and it deals with the subject of financial responsibility. And so, when I think about responsibility, um, I was looking up the definition of the word responsibility. Basically, when I think of responsible, I think of someone who's handling their business, somebody who, is making decisions and doing what they need to do and taking care of things. But then when I looked at the definition of responsible, maybe it's the same, but when I read it, basically the definition was it said moral, legal, or mental accountability. And it also said um it reliability, trustworthiness. So those second two are more so what I was thinking of: reliability, trustworthiness. And then tonight what I really wanted to do is just spread some knowledge on financial responsibility, because I genuinely believe that nobody, you know, wants things to turn out bad financially. But I think the truth is that we rise or fall to the level of our systems. And I don't think people are really educated or have systems set in place so they can succeed. And I'm reading this book now, and I'm going to jump into and play the video because it's really, really good. But I'm reading this book now called The Psychology of Money. And basically, what it's talking about is a lot of times people think money is like charts and numbers and stats, but the truth is, money is psychology and it's behavior, because money is the thing, but the way that we deal with it really varies based on when we were born, what was our background, what did we go through when we were born. Some people, they were born and they faced the depression, and they faced times where there wasn't enough and there was lack. And because of that, they might tend to be better savers. Some people, they might have grown up in a financial environment where inflation was extremely high. Other people might have grown up in an environment where the stock market, was kind of at a level place, and they were in a phase, like there were times in history where the banks had really high interest rates, and then there's other times where it's nothing. And so the truth is, I don't think anybody is dumb. I don't think anybody's crazy. I just think that we all deal with money in accordance to our beliefs about it and our experiences. And we all have grown up with different experiences. Some people might have grown up and been in a situation where they didn't know if the lights were going to be on. They didn't know if they were going to eat. That person's thought process about money is going to be much different from somebody who always had the lights on, always had food. Um, Statistically, people who make less money and grow up or tend to live more in poverty are more so the people who buy lottery tickets. And so it might not make sense. Oh, why would you spend your money on lottery tickets when the chance is so small that you could actually win? But for someone, depending on how they grew up, they might think, well, I'm buying a lottery ticket because this is my only hope. I'm buying a lottery ticket because this is like a chance for me maybe to make it out, maybe for me to have a different life, because the prospects of a better paying job or different things aren't there. And I hope that we can walk away from this with kind of understanding we all come from completely different financial perspectives, and in the way that we were raised, the way we grew up comes into that. But I'm hoping today with this video that no matter what our background is, I'm hoping that this video will provide some insight and education and help level the playing field. That way, no matter how you grew up, you can begin to make sense of money and understand it in some different aspects and move forward with a greater level of financial understanding. And I believe a greater level of financial understanding will lead to a greater level of responsibility, or in other words, using financial wisdom, and really having understanding of being able to make the right choices with money. And so I'm going to play this video, and then afterwards, I just want to just reflect. I'd love for you, those of you who are watching online, chime in what you're thinking about it. And then afterwards, I want to hear your thoughts on the video. I've watched this video multiple times, and every time I watch it, it's good. I think, the Bible says, renew your minds daily. And so, I find myself, I learn about money, and then but then like my natural tendencies take over that are may not necessarily be the positive. And so I love constantly watching videos and renewing my mind on dealing with money the right way. Same way I love renewing my mind on the word of God and helping, to bring peace and different things like that in my life. Because I'm keeping my focus right. And so this meeting right here is to get our focus right on finances. And so I believe that when you are financially responsible, you will be a millionaire. And so I am going to share this video, and I want you to tell me what you think about it. But I believe financial responsibility will lead to millions. Because you don't have to make a ton of money to become a millionaire. But with financial responsibility and understanding different principles, you can begin to make things work in your favor. or at least set the next generation up better than where you started. And so let me go ahead and share. And I am super excited for you all. So let me share my sound. And I'm gonna make this large. And I'm gonna be playing this video. And the person that you're gonna hear speaking, he actually founded the company that I actually own an agency in, and I'm super grateful for him and his testimony and kind of what he went through. And basically, just a little background on Art Williams. He was originally a victim. He was a victim of a lack of financial education, and he became a not only a lack of financial education, but really people in the financial industry doing him wrong, or his dad wrong. And then he became a whistleblower. And so he decided, like, no, this is not okay. And I'm sure there's other people being taken advantage of and that don't know either. And so I am going to blow the whistle. I'm going to help put the word out so people know the truth. And then he went from whistleblower to basically an activist, and he literally changed an industry. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this video, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Can you all hear it okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I was confused about how to title this video. I chose How to Become a Millionaire, but another title that I wanted to use is You Got to Quit Fiddle Farting Around. One reason A.O. Williams was so successful, and I learned this in coaching, is you have to simplify the complicated. My first playbook as a head coach, I've told you this before, it was an inch thick, and had, all these different formations and plays and all this kind of stuff. My last year when we won the championship, my playbook was like 7 pages thick. Prudential's playbook was, an inch thick, 170 something pages. Our playbook was 1 page. Most things written about financial services back in the 60s when I went in the business, there were books that were so complicated. I'm not a big reader, a good reader. And, they have, look at all this crap. Now, this is The Millionaire Next Door. Now, look at this. Who in the crap can read this and understand it? Well, I got this, How to Be a Millionaire. I got it down to about 10 pages. 10 principles, how to be a millionaire. I learned all this crap on how to be a millionaire or to quit fiddle farting around while I was part-time. Even before I got a license, it took me 3 months. Back in 1967, you had to get a securities license and an insurance license. And so it took me 3 months to do that. And during those 3 months, I learned all these principles. They're not complicated. The life insurance industry, the investment industry, the banking industry complicates a simple business so they can screw you. That's the American way. And A.O. Williams won, but by simplifying these principles down to what we call common sense, where people like me that ain't got much sense, but I got a little common sense, and you can understand these principles. It's not complicated on how to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire. If you understand these simple little principles that I learned in 1967 before I got a license in 3 months, and I started implementing them. And one of the keys I talk about is, folks, you got to get going now. Time and consistency is the key to becoming a millionaire. And as I say over and over again, I'm the perfect example of somebody that was not supposed to become a millionaire. Here, I was a football coach with a PE degree. Most money I ever made coaching was $10,700 a year. But what I learned in those 3 months getting my insurance and securities license and studying this business and thinking about my dad dying and what a disastrous situation, because my dad was sold the wrong kind of insurance that my mother found herself in. The dad of one of my football players, comes in to sell me life insurance, had a wife and 2 children, and he said, how much can you afford to pay? I said, $20 a month, and he sold me a $15,000 whole life policy. I said, Dad of one of my football players that I trusted. I didn't know nothing about insurance. I didn't know nothing about investments. I was a football coach. And then I found out later that he could have sold me $150,000 of term. The kind of stuff my mother needed, the kind of stuff Angela needed if something happened to me. So these simple common sense principles, folks, if you get off your butt and get going and master them, anybody can become a millionaire. Anybody can become a millionaire. So let me just go through them. The first thing is I learned about trash value life insurance. You know, Consumer Report put out a publication that showed, they said for 51 years they'd been recommending term insurance. But nobody bought term insurance because nobody could read all that complicated crap, you know, that was all that was written back then. And so they said for a whole life or universal life policy, $200,000, it costs $2,000 or $3,000. In their term example, a $200,000 term policy, huge amounts of insurance when you need it, when you've got a mortgage and your kids are young. The older they're getting, the more your mortgage is being paid off. You know, we have the decreasing responsibility theory. See, 85% of the people out there retire flat broke. They're counting on Social Security, which probably ain't going to be here 20 or 30 or 40 years from now. You know, it's bankrupt. And so I learned the difference in term and whole life. Consumer Report said this is unbelievable. Trash value life insurance is the worst investment program in history. In year one, you get a whopping 0% return. In year 5, a minus 60% return. In year 20, the Federal Trade Commission said you get an average in a whole life policy of 1.2% return. But all that don't matter, as sorry as that is, and it's the sorriest investment in the world. The worst thing about trash value life insurance as an investment program is you lose it if you die. So I found out that principle those 3 months while I was getting a license. The next principle I learned was buy term and invest the difference. See, most people are going to live. But in case you do die, if you've got responsibilities, you know, a mortgage and a home and kids, this was called the decreasing responsibility theory. While you've got these huge responsibilities, you've got to buy huge amounts of inexpensive term life insurance. And at some point in time, that life insurance is level for a while and then it begins to decrease. But then what you do is you start an investment program. And the key to becoming a millionaire is time and consistency. Is every month you're investing money in a great investment money program with professional money managements, you know, that have research departments and a vehicle like a mutual fund, you know, and over any 10-year period of time. Over any 10-year period of time since the mutual funds were invented, they've averaged over a 10% return. So that's the key. The key is getting started and time and consistency. And let me give you this example. Look at this chart. This will just blow your butt out of the water. The high cost of waiting. If you invest $100 a month at 12%, at age 25, and that's your retirement program, let's say to age 65, if you wait 1 year, if you do it at age 25, every month, $100 a month, at 12%, you'll have $979,000. But if you wait 1 year to start, and you're just out there fiddle farting around, having fun, screwing around, you lose $106,000. It's only worth $873,000. Now, if you wait 5 years to get started, at age 30, instead of being worth $979,307, you're worth $551,000. You lose $428,000 by waiting just 5 years. So another step that I learned is no expensive debt. I learned about credit cards. I went home after I learned this one principle during those 3 months. I tore up our credit card. Angela literally sat in the kitchen and cried. She said, how am I going to buy groceries? You know, how am I going to pay my bills? I said, we're not going to let the banks continue to screw me. Banks pay you on CDs 1% or 1.5% or 2%, some crap like that, you know. And then they give you a credit card, and if you go out and use the bank's money and you pay them back monthly on their little deal, you know, they make 17 to 27%. That's like robbery. Ain't that something? Ain't that dadgum something? And folks, you've got to stay away from these expensive things like we eventually, after we paid off our credit card loan, then we started screwing the banks. I found a way, simple coach, a football coach with a PhD degree. I found a way to screw the banks, to use their money, pay it off every month, and they charge you zero. And then I'm putting it over here in a good mutual fund with an IRA, and I'm making 12%, 15%, 20%, 10%, and paying the banks zero. And so we eventually right now when I'm traveling, I'm going to Europe today, Angela and I'm in my pocket, I put my credit card that I pay off every month and using the bank's money because I don't want somebody to rob me and have a lot of cash, or all that kind of crap. And so I just carry a credit card. I lose about one a year, and all you do is call the bank, and they are responsible for it. And it's something. I just hope somebody steals it and go charge us thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars before the banks find out. That's my wish. But anyway, I call them, and they issue me a new credit card, zero balance. Somebody's probably taken that and charged hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. They eat that. Ain't that wonderful? They eat that. And so I carry a credit card for convenience, and I carry my driver's license, and then I carry a little cash, a billionaire. I don't carry gobs of money that somebody can steal from me and all that. Plus, I put it in my pants pocket. The camera can't get that right now. I hope you can get this, though. Quit fiddle farting around out there. It just takes a little common sense. And you got to eliminate, I call it expensive debt, like credit cards, like buying furniture. You ever see people that have these yard sales, when they get in a crisis, and they got their old furniture out there. If you go buy furniture and you walk out the store with a furniture, let's say a sofa, do you think anybody's going to, if you pay, let's say, $300 for a sofa, what's that thing worth when you walk out the door? People that got anything, even school teachers like me, they don't want to go somebody's old furniture that probably had cats sitting on it. You got cat hair and they peed on the sofa and all that kind of crap, So these people have yard sales because the furniture's not worth anything, right? They also probably have a rack of old clothes. You go buy clothes, like I buy most of my clothes at Walmart, as you can tell. But you go buy clothes, the minute you walk out of the store, the value of that purchase is worth almost nothing. I mean, you can go put it on a rack, and if you paid $100, I ain't ever done that, but if you go paid $100 for a shirt, and you go on a rack of old shirts out there in a yard sale, what you gonna sell that for? $3? $5? You got to understand this kind of stuff. You go on vacations. Once that vacation's over, you had a little fun for 10 days, and I think you ought to do that when you can afford it, to pay cash, okay? But then that's gone. That money's gone. Vehicles. I don't buy new cars. The minute you drive that car off the lot, you lose about 20% of the value. 20% of the value. So if you pay $30,000 for a car, the minute you drive that thing off the lot, it's going to be worth probably $20,000 or $17,000 or something like that. You've got to understand that. I drove an all-state red scooter for 3 years. I've never bought a new car. Now, Angela, on the other hand, she buys a new car, so we got to a point where I could afford to buy her a new car. Today, I never buy a new car. You can go buy a demonstrator that's got a few miles on it, and all of a sudden they give you a 20% discount or 30% discount. And how long can you drive a car? 100,000 miles, 75,000 miles, You should not buy a new car until you become a billionaire, And does that make sense to you people out there? Student loans. They ought to go to Washington and put a guillotine out in the middle of the courtyard and start with the Democrats first, and then line up the Republicans and just put their neck on the guillotine and just chop them off. one at a time, because they came out with something like student loans. I told you a while ago about the cost of waiting, fiddle farting around, right? They go to a college, get a college degree, which ain't worth nothing, because college professors, especially in business, ain't ever done nothing, so they don't know nothing, so they can't teach nothing. This stuff I'm talking about was never discussed in college. They never taught me anything of value about buying the right insurance and investing in an IRA with tax advantages. They don't talk about that. They talk about crap, because that's all they know is crap. And so student loans are a disaster, because you got kids graduate from college with, I think the average college debt is $35 or $40 or $50,000. Some people got $150,000 because they think a college degree is worth something. They get out of college, and 99% of the people don't use the degree they get. They get some stupid degree out there and they don't use it, and yet they leave with a $50,000 debt. And it takes them 5 years to pay it off, or 10 years to pay it off. They have to go back and live with mom and dad because they can't get a job. It's a disaster. Then they're waiting and they're counting on Social Security, which is going bankrupt. So the only kind of debt you should have as a youngster, getting married, starting your family, is a mortgage. I mean, you can go buy a house that has a mortgage because it has some tax advantages to it, okay? But even that, another step is having no debt. You need to work, folks, towards having no debt. Now, this next step just wipes me out. I don't understand it today. It blows me away. I've been in the business since 1967, but I call this the magic of compound interest. If you put $1,000 in Bank A and get 5%, look at this. In 70 years, that's worth $30,426. Now, if you put $1,000 in Bank B and get 10% interest, now that's double. You people out there, do you get this? Do you grasp this? 10% is twice 5%, right? So that's double. I can't think of another way to say it, right? But it ought to be worth twice as much. My common sense tells me that, right? But in 1967, I found out this is the way the banks make money. They got all these big towers downtown, with Bank America, Citigroup, that kind of thing. If you put $1,000 in Bank B at 10% interest, everything in my brain tells me it ought to be $60,000, because 5% is $30,000. But this is the magic of compound interest. This is what banks and insurance companies found out. It's worth $789,000. That's magic. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Now look at this next chart. Time and consistency. You got to get started quick. Get started now. No debt. Don't buy declining assets, like clothes and cars and stuff, unless you can pay cash for it. Drive a 5-year-old car, or drive a red Allstate scooter like I did, until you can get enough cash to buy a used car. Look at this chart. $100 a month, compound. Now we're talking about becoming a millionaire or a multimillionaire, right? If you get 1% like they pay in banks in 70 years, that $100 a month grows to $121,000. Well, if you get 6%, it's worth $1.1 million. That's how you become a millionaire. That's how you become a millionaire. Or you can get 12%, which you can put in a mutual fund and get 8 or 10%. Then you got tax advantages that President Reagan came up with. IRA, one of the greatest things in the world. And that same $100 a month with an insurance company would be worth $121,000 that you lose if you die at 12% interest over 70 years. Is $29.6 million. That's magic. Now, ain't that something? That's what A.O. Williams did for families out there. Then I learned about something. This is an old football coach with a P degree. I had $1,000 when I started in this business, $1,000 in our teachers' credit union. The rule of 72. Now look at this. This was just a simple way for people like me to understand the magic of time and consistency. It doesn't take a lot of money to become a millionaire, okay? You just got to be smart, and you can't waste money. Okay, so look at this, the rule of 72. If you get 1% interest like you do with a bank, it doubles in 72 years. But if you get 6% interest, it doubles in 12 years. Isn't this something? Ain't that something? If you get 12% interest over 72 years, it doubles in 6 years versus 72 years. Is that just any simple-minded person can understand that? Ain't that, you can't have a smaller brain than I've got, right? And all of a sudden I had the magic of compound interest. The key is professional money management. So we sell by term and invest the difference. The decreasing responsibility theory, a huge amounts of insurance when you have huge responsibilities, young kids, mortgages, this kind of stuff, And as that begins to go down, your insurance begins to decrease, And all of a sudden, you use the magic of compound interest and you go get professional money managements and research departments handling your money like in a good mutual fund or an index fund. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Simple. And then another thing I learned is ITT had a meeting where a guy was talking about a book that Napoleon Hill had written, and he said the common denominator of all these successful people. I see for people like me, folks, I'm so sick and tired of these so-called experts writing a book that ain't ever done nothing, or these college professors trying to teach kids out there how to win that ain't ever done nothing. Let me tell you a principle. I listen to people that have done it. If you're going to talk to me, the first thing I want to see is your resume. And if you ain't built a business, if you hadn't become a millionaire, then don't talk to me about how to become a millionaire. Does that make any sense to you folks out there? I know I know you probably don't like me, but you know what that means to me? As zero. Because I tell it like I think it is. And I've proven that the way I think it is, these are not my ideas. I didn't invent all this stuff. I just found smart people that taught me these ideas, right? And if you say, well, Art, you are crude and you are rude. And that's what I mean to be, crude and rude, because I want you to quit fiddle farting around and let's get on with becoming a millionaire, right? And I'm giving you simple principles I learned that work 100% of the time. Does that make sense to you people out there? So hate me if you want to. I know I'm not polished. I know I'm not good looking. I know I'm not smart, okay? But I'm worth a lot more than you, okay? This guy said, I studied all successful people out there, all people that have been in all kind of different walks of life. And this was just, you can do these principles in any kind of, to be successful in any kind of business, but I just applied these to me to become financially independent. And for years in A.O. Williams, every recruit I recruited, every fast start school I talked to, folks, I gave these principles to every single A.O. Williams person. And the last principle, and we owe this to President Reagan, is when they came up with an IRA, that was the death blow to cash value life insurance. They'd been screwing the consumer, literally screwing the consumer, biggest screw job ever for over 100 years. And then the IRA came out, and this was the nail in the coffin, buried those SOBs, for a nicer word. Look at this. If you put $2,000, that's what you could do back then when it started in 1984. Okay, now I think you can put $5,500 a person in there. Okay, but if you put $2,000 in there, you save $560,000 in taxes. Isn't that something? Now, in addition to getting an investment return with your professional money management and a good mutual fund, that kind of thing, then that makes maybe 10%. Okay, then all of a sudden you save 28% or 25% or 32% or 40% like that tax bracket I'm in. The government is so desperate because Social Security is going bankrupt that they want to encourage people to invest money, so they created the greatest investment in the history of the world. So look, if you take the same $2,000, if you got $2,000 you earn, you can put it into an IRA with me, and a great professionally managed mutual fund that's going to pay you 10%, 12%, 15%, 8%, whatever. Historically, it's always done 10% over any 10-year period of time. You can put that $2,000 with me, and you don't pay taxes on that. Or you can go down to a bank or to a non-IRA mutual fund, and you can take that same $2,000, okay? But before you put that $2,000 in your investment program, you got to pay $506. The government defers your taxes on that and lets it accumulate deferred, right? And look at the difference. In 40 years, if you don't have an IRA, same $2,000, you have a pot of $480,000. But if you put the $2,000 with a great tax deduction, okay, you're worth $1.7 million. That's how you become a millionaire. Just little simple common sense principles. Does that make sense? You got to quit fiddle farting around and get on now, because the key is time and consistency.
Man, that I every time I watch that video, I'm like, you know, I don't know if any of y'all are like me, but sometimes it's just so easy to get what you like and use credit cards. I don't know if any of you watching have ever gotten in trouble with credit cards, or, you know, lived a life where you spend what you make as opposed to living below your means. One of the things about what he said is it requires a level of self-control and like a level of like saying, okay, I'm not gonna get into instant gratification, but I don't want to go on and on about it. I want to hear your thoughts from it. There was a lot that was covered, but it was all based around the same thing about understanding financial products and the opportunity to become a millionaire, and how somebody with the same exact money cannot be a millionaire just from not knowing a few key principles and knowing where to put their money. Anybody have any comments or questions on it?
I guess just to give a response, I'm not really driven by trying to be this number, a millionaire, or whatnot. But I am driven to make sure that that I can leave an inheritance for my children's children, and I think in order to do that, a lot of what he talked about is just discipline. Have good discipline. Make sure you put some thought into what you spend what you spend the resources that God has given you, what you spend those resources on, and don't and not being careless. I was listening to a guy today, a guy named Shannon Sharp, has a podcast, and he was interviewing. Shannon is an retired NFL football player, and he was interviewing this guy named Edrin James, and and so when he was asking questions, hey, when you got that big contract when you went to the NFL, what was your first thing you bought and things like that, and and Edrin, he's like, most people call me cheap. I can't even remember what I bought because it wasn't a splash. I just want to make sure that my mother, who made $17,000 a year as a cafeteria worker, I wanted to make sure that that the investment she made into me, that investment had a return on it, and that I was able to put her in a good condition to good position to live out a comfortable life. And so he said that when he spent money, he made sure that that he put thought into what he was doing, and he was like, so you never hear about me going to a club, and throwing up $30,000, because and $30,000, to the type of money they make is really not much. But he's like, you'll never hear me going to the club just throwing $30,000 up in the air at a club. He said, but what I did do for the people that I knew that weren't smart, that wanted to, pretend that they had all this stuff. He said, I got into the club business, And he said, and I told him, guys, keep that same energy now. You come into my club and I want you to throw the 30,000. He said, I'm not gonna throw away 30,000, but I know it's people out there that's not smart with their money. And I think that's kind of the thing that he was talking about is some people just aren't smart, with their money, and there are people that take advantage of people that aren't smart. But I think if you're disciplined, you educate yourselves on what works for your money, and you know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I think you can make good decisions to where you can leave an inheritance for your children's children.
I love it. I love it. And when it comes to retirement, I always like to tell people retirement is a number and not an age. And so when it comes to, planning that goal and thinking about how much income you want coming in per month, if someone had $1 million when they retired, that million, that they could withdraw 80,000 a year from that million for the next 30 years. And then after 30 years of withdrawing 80,000 a year, they could still have 1.9 million left. And that's how, like, so you put in 1 million, and if you withdraw 80,000 a year for 30 years, you know, you withdraw more than you put in. You withdrew 2.6 million. So, you know, and those are like the wealth principles of being able to put your money in a vehicle where it can grow and work for you, and you can be able to live off that money. Um, if someone said, "Well, I don't need $80,000 a year to live," like I would be fine with, 50,000. I'd be completely fine with that. I can enjoy my life. For someone like that, they had 1 million and they withdrew 50,000 a year. In 30 years from now, they would be leaving $6.7 million. And so there's so much power in getting to that mark, because what happens is you begin to create a situation where you never actually have to touch the money you built, and that money works for you and provides like lifestyle and resources. um and something crazy, if someone said, well, you know what, I'm gonna you know give my children a portion, but I'm gonna set another amount in a trust for it not to be touched, for a while, and let it grow some more. Somebody said, "Well, I'm gonna bless my children. I'm gonna give them 500,000, but the other 500,000, I'm gonna just let that sit for 30 more years, and that'll be there, when the grandchildren grow up. That 500,000, half of that gave, half the other part set in a trust, and then let that grow in a fund that will grow to 7.3 million." I just get so fascinated with the numbers because I'm like, wow, that's just powerful. Imagine, living a life where you do things and it has nothing to do with money. Imagine um how much you can give. Like if you had $7 million, you could give, and I want to see the math on it real quick. If you had $7 million, you could give 560,000 a year just from off the interest of your money. Just give to your church, give to charities around the world. And there's so much. I love Dave Ramsey. He talks about, the whole goal of being responsible and having discipline and doing the right things with your money and building it to put yourself in a position to, one, live a life of freedom, but two, give a lot. Give a lot. And one of the things that motivates me and makes me say, okay, I want to be, I want a lot of money, is I want to be able to help people. And there are some situations that break my heart. There's kids who go to school that don't they only eat at the school. They don't eat at home. And then I watch documentaries. I forget what her name is, but she's an actor, and I hear about how she grew up with rats literally scratching the face off of her doll and not having laundry or clean sheets. And that type of stuff breaks my heart so bad. One of the things that, upsets me now, and I don't quite understand it, is I hear Duval is closing down completely, just like completely. And I don't get it, because I'm like, there's new schools that are going up all around, but yet this school right off 8th Avenue, like on East Ainsville, is like shutting down. How do y'all have funds to build a whole brand new school? Then y'all shutting down this school as opposed to like pouring into resources. And then there's a part of me like, man, if I was a millionaire, if I had all this money, I could say, you know what? I'm going to get the people in there in position, be able to pay the people with the talents and gifts, the money that they deserve to be paid, and pour back in the community, and build a school where, our community can have resources, in the East Gainesville, and we don't have to count on the government, their funding or different people. But if we have wealth in our community, we can fund our own projects. You know what I mean? We can fund everything into a whole new level. The more money we have, the more funding that we can do. And there's just power in that. Does anybody else have any, other comments? I get so passionate about this ability to build wealth, and I'm just so excited about my future, and just God being able to use me to be able to, pour into projects and different things that, touch my heart. But there's not much I can do about it now, besides pray, encourage, and try to share some education. But you know, there's things some of my mentors do, and I'm like, man, I can't wait till the day I can do that, where you meet a child who has a speech impediment, and they need, maybe a procedure, or they need different things and insurance can't cover it. And to hear of that need and be able to say, you know what, I got it. And be able to pour back and give, because I think a lot of people are hardworking, but um I love Shaq. I be hearing about how he'll go in the store and just bless somebody with the groceries. In these good deeds of people just blessing people just blesses my heart. And so I'm like, God, please bless me more so I can bless people. And be, that answer to that prayer that they're praying, be the hands, and be able to fund. I meet people who want to go on mission trips, and look for sponsors. God bless me so that I can be the person to sponsor them to go on that mission trip and pour back in community. Any other comments?
I think it was good, Kiera, and I was thinking about a scripture when I was listening to the piece of it. When it's saying we have to write the vision down, when he's saying you have a plan and then we have to make it plain and put it on the tables and we got to run with it. And every little step, as long as you're going forward, you can't go wrong. It's going backwards, the one that slows us down. And another piece I caught is about people getting the right understanding about term life insurance and whole life insurance. Because I'm gonna tell you something, with that term, that's what it says, 75 years old. You see you pretty well healthy at 75, you better be trying to borrow as much as you can off it. Because soon as your birthday comes, you lost all that. That was just a throwaway because they almost like, I can't say control, but insurance is tricky, man. It's almost telling you how long you're supposed to live on a term life insurance part at 75 years old. And people living 80, all them years you had invested in it is no good. So, it's sad, but you would have to start all over again and make the right investments with insurance, like final expenses and stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I'd be interested in with health conditions and all, health problems and all. But yeah, I caught that. That's a part of financial awareness too, when he was mentioning about that insurance. Because if you got the wrong type of insurance, just keep eye on that. But it's very interesting. Okay, that's all I got.
Yes. And with the insurance piece, just to bring clarity on it, the biggest point that he mentioned, and I'll share my screen to draw it out, because this part, there's a huge misconception on it, and the big reason why is just because of the information that's put out there. But he talked about the theory of decreasing responsibility. And so basically it looks like this. So in the earlier years of your life, a lot of responsibilities. He talked about, you have kids and you got the house, and you just got your family. So God forbid if something happened to you, if you die too soon, right? That's what we call that, too soon. Basically, it's early. And the reason why I feel like it's too soon is because there's no money. It's like, oh man, that's a really bad situation. The family's trying to do GoFundMe and there's never enough raised in the GoFundMe because yeah, you might have enough to bury, but then here goes this family, this household that was living on 60,000 a year, but now only 30,000 a year is coming in and they have the kids and all the responsibilities. Um, and so not a lot of money. And so term insurance allows you to get a lot more coverage for a much lower cost. So the family is able to get, let's say they make 50,000 a year, they can get 500,000 of term insurance. And if they're like get 500,000 on the husband, 500,000 on the wife, coverage on the kids for less than $150 a month. But if they were to get whole life insurance or another type, that same insurance is going to cost them three, four more times the price, 600, 700, 800. And a lot of times it's not even an amount that people might um typically be able to do. But even if they did, the way the insurance work, the interest rates are so low and all the fees and the policy and having to borrow it, it doesn't work out in your favor. So what he says is, hey, take your money, put part of it towards insurance and the other part of it, put it in a good investment. So now over the years, if I'm 30 over here, by the time I'm 65, God be willing, I'm still alive. Most people statistically are still alive by that age. And guess what? My need for insurance goes down. My kids are grown. My house is paid off. And so I don't need a lot of insurance anymore. But if I've been saving and doing the right things, now I have 500,000 in savings, right? Or more. And so God forbid if I die too soon, my family gets 500,000. If I live a long time, guess what? My family gets 500,000. And so really, if I plan it right, I won't need the insurance in my later years because of theory of decreased responsibility. My need for insurance has gone down because why? My kids are grown, my house is paid off, but then also my savings has grown. And so now by the time I retire, I have money. And so when I pass, guess what? My family is my beneficiary. If I die too soon, I leave them $500,000 policy. But if I die and my insurance is over, so now I got a 35-year term, so my insurance is over at age 65, but I got 500,000 cash. My family still gets 500,000, but guess what? They didn't necessarily need it, so I'm just leaving inheritance. They have enough for funeral. There's a blessing that I left behind. And so that's the whole theory of it. And then if you live really long time, you live past 65, that money, whenever you save for retirement, your plan is you never have to touch it. You never have to worry about it running out. So you live off the interest and you still get to leave that money behind an inheritance for your family so that it grows. So I'm glad you brought that up so I can bring clarity to it. But the theory of decreasing responsibility is, what people can do to set themselves up in a position where they, build wealth and save money on their insurance costs. And they make sure their family's protected if they die too soon or if they live a long time. And many of these policies where there's a whole life policy, the interest rate is horrible. And then when you have other types of policies like universal life, the fees eat away at the policy. And so what happens is later on when you get older, you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, the policies actually start to implode because the fees actually start to eat away at this cash value. So even if the company does let you keep the cash value, it decreases because of all the fees they're eating away at the actual investment. So it's better to keep investments and insurance separate and grow your money. Before I stop sharing, does anybody have any questions on that?
No, I totally agree. You know, and that's a good plan. And I look at plans, and I've been keep trying to. That's why I always like to come on, because I always learn something. And I'll be looking at the income that I make and the income that's going out. The whole catch to that, you know, you can grab hold and try to get something when you get past 40 and 50, and try to make some slight arrangements and stuff. But what I try to do in my condition with health problems is try to get a lot of little bitties. And what I mean by little bit is a little $10,000 here, a little $10,000 there. It's not enough to deal with the retirement part, but this kind of stuff, what we're listening to, is best to try to get it when you're young. So I'm glad you're putting it out there. I hope somebody can catch it, because when you get my age at 62, you should be already kind of like and got some kind of idea of your
Right.
last days that you're running into. You know what I'm saying? Because making different investments at 62 could kind of tricky. You know what I'm saying? So you just want to
Yeah.
try to be mindful of what you got coming out of the end, because you're looking at, you say, to pay $2,000 mortgage here, $500 a month for health insurance. And then, you know, you ain't ate nothing yet. You ain't put no gas in the car yet. You ain't made your car payment yet. So, you know, it's all about what he said. It's all about just writing it down, write a plan down, and like what works for you, work for you, you know, because some of this stuff is very, you know, to be mindful of, but you got to start a lot of this stuff when you're young and you kind of making decent money. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of time when people are staying home, and young people, this is when they really need to jump on those opportunities before they walk out that other door. Because here's two doors. Is one that you go in, is one that you stay out of. You know what I mean? And things change when you get out in the real world and deal with that stuff. So this information is very helpful. That's all I got, TR.
Yeah, you, oh my gosh, you are so right, 100%. It makes a huge difference. Whenever I work with people who are, older, the scenario becomes very different because you don't have time on your side as far as the length of time for your money to work for you. And so in that case, I think the biggest thing is really like fighting to eliminate the debt, and really getting yourself in a position where the expenses are low, so that God forbid if something happens, okay, now if I leave, a spouse behind, they're not trying to manage all of this by themselves. And there's some money, and I know sometimes what people might do is maybe they had a house, they might sell it and downsize and use the funds for the house. And then sometimes people might do a reverse mortgage to help them financially so they can stay in their house. But then what the reverse mortgage does is it eats away at the equity you have in your house. And so basically you're using your house for income. But then your house pretty much might not be able to be left behind or not as valuable for the family that you leave it for. But if the whole goal is that you can live in your house and enjoy the rest of your life, then that's totally fine too. But I think it's so important that we think about these things and get real about it, and really look and start to execute and make game plans. And the sooner we do it, like Art Williams said, quit fiddle farting around. Just the sooner we do it, better. So Byron, I love the fact like you're handling business and you're doing, because all we can do is all we can do, and all we can do is enough. It isn't, that's all we can do, and is all we can do, and all we can do is enough. And so I think the most important thing from tonight is take these principles and then just do our best and set our families up for success. And just that financial responsibility, I think, is doing the right things, um, living below our means, paying ourselves first, putting our money in a place where it's going to work for us, and getting things lined up so that our family is okay financially. Because the truth is, we don't know when they're going to go. We do not know, and we don't know when we're going to go. I pray I can live to 100, but that tomorrow is not promised. And so, I hope that, somebody watching today might say, you know what, things are tight, but I think I'd rather have some life insurance and investments over cable. Because if somebody's paying 200 a month for cable, you can do 100 towards your life insurance, 100 towards investments. You can be well on your way. We might have to cut out some stuff. Um, for those of you, if you're watching this and you have Medicaid or you have children, Cox has a program where you can get internet for a lower cost. They have an affordable connectivity program. And I think the last thing I just want to share, and especially for people who are like watching on Facebook, if you're watching this and you're like, man, things are tight, things are hard, I want to encourage you to have humility, and be willing to sit with somebody, and share with them what you're struggling with, and let an outside person come and keep you accountable. You know, every week, me and my husband, we meet with somebody who's like helping us with our budget. We've been paying out debt, catching up on stuff, like just being more financially responsible, and that accountability helps. You know, I'm transparent with my dad and Michonne about our finances, and just being, you know, just that accountability. And I think that's so important. You got to find people in your life that will lift you up and encourage you to do the right things and get on a good track, and be accountable, and make better decisions. And so, you know, 2023, you know, we're in February, we're about to go to March. Next thing you know, this whole year is going to be over. And so let's make it to where we're making a dent in our debt, if not paying it off all the way. And let's make it to where we're making a dent in our savings, and we're getting, you know, I always tell you the foundation to a financial house, and I'm gonna wrap it up. But the foundation to a financial house is your life insurance, your will, your emergency fund, right? 3 to 6 months of expenses, and your budget. Your budget is the foundation to the financial house, because that's instructing and guiding your money where to go. And then you have your debt elimination plan, then your retirement plan, and then your other goals. And don't get caught up in focusing on all those other goals while everything in order, because if your financial house isn't built on a strong foundation in the right way from the bottom to the top, that thing will fall apart. One little thing can come in and destroy it. And so, so yeah, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I pray that this bless somebody. Many of you watching, you may have children or you may have grandchildren. You have people in your life that you love and care about. Send this link to them. Get them to watch it, especially those youngins that you got in your life, people still in their 20s or they just graduated high school. How powerful for an 18-year-old to start working on this stuff. Y'all saw the power of a 25-year-old doing $100 a month. It's even more for an 18-year-old just to start putting away 100 a month. And when I was 18, I could waste that easily, just fast food and random things I didn't really need. And just $100 a month would put me on track to build what you call financial independence, where you no longer have to be dependent on a job or the government. Because you have $1 million, you ain't got to depend on the job or the government. You're what you call financially independent, because now your money's working for you and your money is producing what you need to live, and you get to live life a whole different type of way when you're financially independent. So I love you all, and I'm gonna turn it over to my dad to close us out, if he has anything that he wants to share before we close out.
All right, and so I think it's always when he made the statement about common sense. Common sense works good in a common situation, but I think we have to also understand that there's some very uncommon systems that we live in, and so what might be easier for one group to basically even to say, when he make the point about education, I go and look at the Bureau of Statistics, and what he says might make sense, but the numbers don't jive with it. And so when you look at the numbers, income, income and education, it's obvious. There are some outliers, but the numbers don't lie. The numbers are obvious. But there's some people that benefit from systems to where education levels might not be as important. And I think about when I worked at Anheuser-Busch, I had more education than most of the white boys that was there, but they had opportunities to make a lot more money. But those systems don't work for everybody. And books that I would recommend is that because I think that black people, we have to understand that some things that people look at as common sense works good if you're in a common. I think about my house over in Duval. It doesn't appreciate like my house in Springtree or my house in the southwest side of town. That's wealth. And so when I look at my net worth, You know, the bulk of my net worth is tied up in my houses in the Southwest and Northwest, and not the one in the Northeast, and because of systems, and so we have to really learn how to function as a group. And there's two books that I would recommend to you. A guy named Dr. Claude Anderson. One is Black Labor, White Wealth, and that would be like part one. And then after that, Powernomics by a guy named Dr. Claude Anderson. I would read that to get an understanding of how to also overcome the systems, because you can have the best common sense in the world, but then you're gonna still find out that there's some systems. And some of our parents were coming up; they had to deal with redlining as they were trying to build their wealth, and there's still systems set up today. And so everything is common sense to some folk. It doesn't work for everybody in the same way. And so as we get the information, we also got to understand how, as a group, we have to make our money work in our best interest. But that can only be done in the collective. It can't be done solo. So I would recommend those two books if you all have time to do some reading. All right. Want to thank everybody for joining us. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Hope you got something out of it. Please share the post. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next month. God bless you and have a great one.
Good night.
Good job there, Sister Hall.
Yes.